I'm Spencer Scott Holmes,
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
and today we're going to be talking about the classic adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog all the way through his whole entire career.
Yeah, I know originally we said we were going to do everything Tom Morello, but complications arose. I haven't got my copy of the book yet due to Amazon. So we'll get around to that one eventually. But for this week, retrospect on Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, so Sonic, that's your all-time favorite series, wouldn't you say? Right?
I
Your personal one?
My personal favorite series, yeah, I think that's safe to say. Recent years, Sonic's kind of been like playing with my heart a little bit, been kind of let me down here and there, but overall, I'd say it's probably my favorite character, my favorite series. It's probably the first video game series I got into was Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario World. But then, if you listen in on our last podcast, you know that we lost our Super Nintendo at a short after a very short time. So ended up getting a Sega Genesis, and that's where I fell in love with Sonic the Hedgehog.
I think Sonic was my fourth game I got. I think originally, well, if you just include the two games that came with my Sega Genesis, because I got Wimbledon and
Sonic One.
no, I got Wimbledon and boxing, and because it was like the Sega Sports Pack one, which is strange enough, I also have a Dreamcast version similar to that too. But I got that, and then the first two actual games, or I got the three original games I got for Sega Genesis, other than those two, was Cool Spot, which is an amazing game, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the fighting one for Sega Genesis, not the movie one, and Zombies Ate My Neighbors. But the game I got after that was all at Christmas, I think. Yeah, not my birthday, Christmas.
That was a good Christmas.
Yeah, that was a great Christmas. That was the start of my video game heritage right there, excluding all the games I played beforehand. But that was when I first had a console at my house. I didn't have to go to the arcade anymore. But the next game I got after that was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and a 6-button controller.
I actually I didn't have very many of the Sonic games. It was because actually it was my brother's Sega Genesis. He primarily had a bunch of sport titles, and I had four games, and there were four. I got them very sparingly. I got Sonic the Hedgehog 1 because that's the game it came with, which I fell in love with that game. Then I played it. Then I played Sonic 2 and I played Sonic 3 from going to friends' houses and renting it because this is back in the day. Like kids. I'm not sure how often you rent games anymore from the video stores.
They cost like $10 a game nowadays.
Yeah, I know, but there was a time where you would just go and you would just rent the same game because it seemed like a reasonable price. But
oh, I used to rent Sonic the Hedgehog 3 all the time. And
yeah,
then one day I actually ended up beating it. I'm like, oh, there's 6 levels?
I thought there'd be more than that. Yeah,
But you know, I went back and played Sonic 3 a couple months ago, all the way through again. And that game actually, even though there's only 6 levels, it feels almost just as long as Sonic 2, though.
because the levels are so long.
Yeah, the levels are a lot longer. So, I mean, on paper, 6 levels, you know, because what Sonic 2 had? Probably 9 levels, I think?
I'd say 9 levels. Yeah.
I think that's what it has. So, Sonic 3, the levels are a lot longer. So, it does actually kind of equal about the same. Still probably the shortest, but...
Yeah. Sonic 3, I have no real. I mean, yeah, I guess that's all. I guess that's the only real complaint to have about Sonic 3 is just how short how short the game is itself. The levels themselves are pretty long, but yeah, a game like but the only games I had for Sega Genesis, to get back to that, was Sonic 1, which is technically both of ours, then Aladdin, Toy Story, and Sonic and Knuckles. I got them very sparingly. That was probably within the 4 years we had a Dreamcast. It was probably one game a year, and that's kind of the way it worked out.
The Toy Story game was a good game, too.
It was, but the RC level always kicked my ass. I never beat the RC level. The one we play RC for the first time, and you have to race to get the batteries. Those are some fucking shitty batteries, man. I mean,
yeah, that kid spent like $20 just to play the RC for about 2 minutes.
I know it was the '90s, and we were all cool with buying a lot of shit, but really, that was just ridiculous if you go through it that quickly.
No. So Sonic 1, that was the first Sonic you had?
Sonic, yeah.
Was that the first one you had and first one you played?
Yep, both.
Nice. Sonic 1, I got that one in the Sega 6-pack, which is always kind of funny when you're a kid. You're like, 6-pack. But no, it had Sonic 1, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Revenge of Shinobi, Columns, and whatever that motorcycle one was called. The one that had remember my dad pointed out to this on
I had the most 90th names ever. I can't remember what it is.
No, it wasn't. I don't think so. It was actually like an '80s
Street
arcade game.
Rage or something like
No,
that.
no, it wasn't any. It wasn't like Road Rash or anything like that. It was an '80s just like arcade. You get on the motorcycle and tilt, to turn. But it had like these signs on the side as you drove by really fast, and really what they were, they're like Marlboro ads. It just had the little red little triangle thing with the white on it. Yeah, it didn't say Marlboro, but it was like same logo.
I bet it was something like at one point they're probably gonna put it in there, but then they jumped on them like can't do that. Like fuck. All right,
so they're like, well, it's okay. Just put the the picture in there.
Yeah.
Kids like pictures. They'll eventually recognize the two together.
Well, that kind of reminds me. This isn't about Sonic. It's a little off topic. This is like one of my favorite Simpsons episodes. Episodes where John Waters guest starred, and Homer was trying to like make Bart more manly because he thought John Waters was gonna turn Bart gay. So he sits him in front of a Marlboro sign, and like a guy like partying with two girls with bikinis. He's like, I just want you to stare at this. You see Bart just sitting there at this folding chair at the intersection for like hours. Then the Homer goes by. So how do you feel? Like I want a cigarette. That's a start, you know.
I love that. His big cigarette ad he has to sit in front of.
But anyway, that's not Sonic, but it's the 90s, so it's somewhat related.
So that's where I got Sonic 1, I got that, which that came out in 1995. I think I bought that brand new. I think it was like $20 when it came out, which seemed like such a steal at the time, because there was like no other games. They didn't have that where you had like 6 games in one cart back then. I mean, very rare. There was a couple games for Super Nintendo where you had like 2 games, like Tetris and Dr. Mario, but they were technically not like actual Super Nintendo games.
I'll be honest. I actually, even though we had a Sega Genesis and I played the shit out of those 4 video games, I can't really bust out a bunch of knowledge on old Sega Genesis games. Where I really started to play video games, started to get a lot of video games, was Nintendo 64. But Sega Genesis is where I started to play video games. And you know, aside from those 4 games that I had, it was always what my friends had at their house, what I would rent from, I think it was Gold Tree Video where I was from, but yeah.
Yeah, we had Big Video up here, which was awesome. No, but me and Sega, I didn't get another system till 1998, so I played Sega Genesis for about like 7 years was the thing I had. I went over to friends' houses and played Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo, and then N64 later on. And I didn't know anybody had a PlayStation for a while. I think I got a PlayStation without ever really playing it too often. I played a couple games. I played Twisted Metal. I played Tomb Raider, like when you went to the store or something.
Yeah.
But but the other one.
That was that time. If you saw a video game on display, you'd be like, I have to play it. Because it was. I remember just playing. This is once again not feel bad because I keep on taking away from Sonic. Playing Mario 64 at our Blockbuster for the very first time. It's like, oh my god, like. Did you find what you wanted? No, just sitting there, just playing Mario 64.
I think about it nowadays, like, because you go to GameStop and you see they have the games to play there. I don't even touch them anymore. But when I was a kid, your parents would like go do their shopping, and be like, I'm gonna go to the game store really quickly, and you would sit there and like you really were like the cheapest bastard. Did you buy anything? No, you just sat there and played their video games for 3 hours while your parents did all their shopping.
It was the 90s, man.
Yeah. 90s and 2000s. We went through everything.
We want a bunch of free shit.
You'd be like, oh, dude, Rogue Squadron. And you go through there and you put the codes in because you thought you were cool.
Yeah.
And you leave off like that.
We shouldn't steer too much. We jumped up.
But back to Sonic.
Yeah.
The other Sonic that I actually started out playing, I had Sonic 2, and that was the first one I played. My friend had Sonic CD, and he was the rich kid that had the Sega CD. And Sonic CD was really cool, even though that's probably out of the original kind of Genesis CD 32X era. Sonic CD actually, out of the main series, probably my least favorite one out of at least the quad 4 ones.
The thing about that one is like out of the main series, it is a really good one, and I don't know, I probably like that one more, just a little bit more than Sonic 3 actually, but just a little bit more. But the thing about it is, I just I don't know where people say it's the greatest in the entire series. I don't know where they get that from. Okay, the whole like time travel thing's cool, and it's a good game. Don't get me wrong, but it's really when it gets right down to Sonic 1 through Sonic and Knuckles, it's really the same thing, but it's just so much fun. It doesn't really bother you. There's little changes, the introduction of Tails and Knuckles and the little like power-ups, but they're not things that ultimately change the game that much. The thing is, it's just simplicity. It's just so much fun, and that's almost kind of like a problem what the series has now. It can't reach it. Either it does one of two things whenever it comes out with a new game now. It either overly simplifies it or just throws too much in there of what you don't want,
Yeah,
where
all
you
the
don't
crap you
recognize
don't
it as a
even.
Sonic game. Like, why the fuck do I want to play as Big the Cat?
Well, I remember when Sonic CD playing that the Sega CD that system blew our fucking minds at like
Especially
age 7.
the anime intro. Like,
Well, yeah, it
there's
was.
an animated intro at the very beginning of the game.
Well, all the Sega CD, like I used to look at Sega CD and I felt like that was real life. I would play the Jurassic Park game, which you look back now and it's all a bunch of animated world you're going through, but it seems so realistic. The Power Ranger game made you feel like you were in the show, even though it was all pixelated.
You're just watching the show. You like punch buttons through it.
Yeah, and then if you punched them wrong, then it stopped. You know, start from the beginning and keep trying to go through the episode.
Which that's really the most genius scheme, really. All right, get the kids to pay for the episodes so they get for free. If they want to keep watching the episode, just gotta push buttons. That's all they gotta do.
Well,
they feel like they're playing it.
Well, there was other cool games too. There was like Tomcat Alley, which I thought was awesome. It had the live cutscenes, and then you had but if you had to shoot down everybody real quick. If you lost like one time, I think they give you like 2 tries.
The Sewer Sharks one or something?
There was the Sewer Shark too. That came with the Sega CD. But Tomcat Alley was a really cool one. You flew like an F-15, and then it had all like the little videos, and they talked to you like you were taking off at the time. And Top Gun was such a big movie when I was a kid that game gave you like the Top Gun experience, you know. And then that was like the coolest thing. And then Sega CD with Sonic CD. Well, actually, one of the coolest things about Sega CD, this is what I love the most, is the intro. Whenever you turn on any game, it had like the Sega logo, and then it showed Sonic, you know, flicking his finger, and little sparkles came down over it. I'm like, doo-doo.
I remember that. Yeah.
I always thought the intro that was so cool. And Sonic CD, the other thing kind of blew your mind too, is it had like sort of a 3D effect. Sometimes when you go into some of the pipes, you go and turn, and then you come down, and then you'd also the soundtrack it was actually like a full on like orchestra kind of soundtrack and techno-ish, and even had some pop songs in it.
Yeah, that was that definitely was. I mean, I'm not trying to bring it down. Like, it's not that great. It is definitely a highlight of the series. I just don't see what makes it in the long run. I guess graphic wise and what you're saying, the music and some of that. It's I can see how it's a little bit of a jump, but it's generally the same same 5 games, Sonic 1 through Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah, well, they are kind
of
the way that I always like the Sonic CD though. That one, it almost felt like it was filled with a bunch of bells and whistles that when you were a kid you thought were really amazing. And then when I kind of get older, it's like I don't think the levels are designed as well as Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles. I don't, like there's just all these kind of little things in it. Like I think that the flashiness really got you.
I think that's what it was more the flashiness, because they also had the animated opening and the animated ending. They gave Sonic a girlfriend, so I guess it gave you motivation. Like, Sonic has to get laid by the end of this level, So.
And then you also had Battle Metal Sonic, so you had actually like
that was introduction to Metal Sonic, which is a really cool character. So yeah, I think that's the thing about the Sonic CD. I think maybe I didn't think of that. Probably been all the little bells and whistles I had to it. Plus the bonus stages where it felt like you were playing a 3D game.
Yeah,
for a second.
The bonus stages, which are extremely fucking difficult to this day. If it doesn't move, you just start going really fast. You're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Kind of like in Sonic.
Sonic 3.
And Sonic and Knuckles, those ones. It starts going faster and faster as the thing goes on.
Same as Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, isn't it?
Yeah. Make a left, make hard left, hard left, hard right. Go, jump, hard left, hard right.
Eventually, you just do one stupid little thing like click left, wrong. No, hitting the bumper right into the red sphere. Yeah.
My favorite bonus stages out of all of them, though, were in Sonic 2, though.
Those are fun bonus
stages.
I love
those ones. I thought were fun. I didn't feel like they were kind of like
I liked the little
frustrating.
I liked the little song that came with it.
And that one, as a kid, that was also those things that really gave you a 3D feel. It's totally 2D, but it gave you a super 3D feel. And even though this is probably the main reason why Sonic 2 is my ultimate favorite one, that's the one I choose as my favorite Sonic game. But it's probably because it was the first one I had and the one I played more than the other ones. But that one, all the stages, all the songs in each of the stages, it had Tails in it, even though when you get older you realize, no, don't play as Tails, just play as Sonic and Tails follows. That's the better way to do it.
Well, I'm kind of right with you on Sonic 2, because Sonic 2, I think, is the best one, just because, just something about it. Not saying the others of the original 5 suck. They're all great games.
No, it's not.
Just something about number 2, I feel like they just cracked everything perfectly.
No,
the level design, the colors, like you said, the songs. It just, I know I'm just repeating what you said. That's just, you're exactly right. Good. You're exactly right.
If you had to choose a favorite stage, what would be your favorite stage in that one?
Favorite stage? Let's see.
There's so many good ones.
I really like the aquatic ruins.
That's a cool one.
The
My
swamp
very favorite one is Hilltop Zone.
Hilltop Zone's definitely up there.
My favorite song in like any Sonic game. The one thing I always thought about Sonic 2 though is this is something I always noticed is Sonic 1 always thought it had better graphics than Sonic 2.
I like Sonic more than Sonic 2. I like the way he looks in that one more.
I like the way he looks more, but the graphics like I think they're just a little bit shinier, a little bit more brighter, and I know when you get like the stars, like they kind of follow you and move with you in that one. Well, in Sonic 2 they just seem to kind of rotate. Like doesn't matter like how you move. There's like little like graphical things like that. One thing that always kind of bothered me because I guess I got Sonic 1 after Sonic 2 was that you couldn't like hold down, press B, and speed up, and then shoot off.
Oh yeah.
That one kind of threw me off.
After you play, that's actually something you can't fault the game for doing that. But that's one of those things. After you play the other Sonic games, it's kind of hard to go back and play one. Like, oh, I can't do the shoot off thing.
I heard in the Game Boy Advance one they made, it was just Sonic 1. That they actually put that back into it, even though I heard that game's supposed to have bad frame rate or something like that.
Really?
Which is strange. It's on Game Boy Advance, but
Wait, was it Game Boy Advance or was it for?
No, Game Boy Advance. You're thinking they made the 4-pack for DS, but they
yeah.
made one for just straight up Game Boy Advance. It was just Sonic 1. I think it was like an anniversary.
Oh, right on.
But that was one thing I remember it said in the review is that they actually put that back in there.
Not to be a dick stuck in the past, but really, if you're getting a port for a game, you're almost getting better than any game that's previously out right now. Not in all cases, but in most cases.
Oh yeah, those are always my favorites.
Mario 64, 3D, like not 3DS, Mario 64
on the regular DS.
Regular DS.
And the thing is too is like a lot of times I see in review magazines, and they give those ports sometimes with classic games, like they give them like the Shaft review. I remember when Resident Evil came out for the DS, and it was the very first one. And they even had like kind of like a DS version where you got to use, the stylus and stuff, which was kind of cool first time around. But you're like, whatever. But it was a port of the original Resident Evil from PlayStation. Had all the cutscenes, had all the original dialogue, everything you know and love, and you could take it anywhere to go. And I'm like, that's all I want. When I get like a handheld, that's what I actually look forward to more than anything else. Is actually handheld versions of
the games
classic,
you love.
Classic amazing games. That's what made the 3DS really cool. Is that Zelda port was fucking awesome.
Oh, that was so awesome.
And that was probably one of the best ports I've ever seen. It was like, I almost say it's almost like a slight remake because they make the graphics just so awesome. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, but if you look back, it's not as like blocky. It's kind of smoothed out, and there's so much like depth in the game. The colors all boosted and stuff, and that has nothing to do with Sonic. But back to the original part, Sonic 1. The only thing I never liked about that one really is I didn't like how on each act there was 3 stages.
That was a bit much, yeah.
Or wait, which stage or act? Which one comes first?
It was, I believe that's where they still called them acts. And
yeah.
The third.
Or the stages. There's the stages, then there's the acts. There we go. I had it backwards.
Well, the acts the third act would always be very short, but Robotnik would be there waiting for you at the end. Of course.
I was so glad that they got rid of that in Sonic 2 and 3 and Knuckles.
What was cool about 3 was you actually got little mini bosses.
Because each one had it, and it had that really cool music in it too.
And you fought well, actually, one of the only times you really didn't fight Robotnik throughout a lot was actually the Sonic Game Gear games.
Yeah, because they changed because those were experimental games, sort of.
Yeah. Like Sonic Chaos, remember that one being pretty good. Like they weren't as good as the originals, but it's only because you're jamming so much onto a small screen, the frame rate and all that.
I was always still really impressed because at least
it was still a great game.
I guess when you compare it to a Game Boy game, you compare it to like Mario on Game Boy, even though I like that one actually probably more nowadays. But at the time, it was just colorful and bright, and it really looked like the Genesis one back then. You were just like, it's not that
I'm getting a seizure from playing it. This is awesome.
Oh, my batteries died. Mom, I need 6 more batteries.
Here you go, Hundy. It's the 90s.
Exactly. Well, back to Sonic 3 though. One thing I liked about that one too is I liked how I like the way that game flows. The first part of the stage, it's like, kind of like one level, but then it turns into another one. So the beginning, you're in the jungle.
It's on fire.
And then it burns down, and then you're going through like kind of like a forest fire jungle.
One of my favorite parts of that level is when Robotnik's chasing you with his like Republican war machine thing, just dropping bombs. He's going through all this trouble just for one fucking hedgehog and his like fox friend.
Well, I always like that like Sonic is almost the allegory for like a Democrat and a Republican, or at least a classic style each one. Because look Sonic is blue. Dr. Robotnik is red.
Sonic starts on the left side of the screen. Robotnik comes from the right side of the screen.
Yeah. And like, Robotnik's this guy who's gone to another planet to fucking harvest, destroy, enslave, rape, pillage, build cities and shit. He's
theme parks.
Yeah, there's like an oil. He's setting up oil, drilling for oil. And what is Sonic doing? He's out there to like save, all the wildlife. He's destroying everything that's like capitalist Republican.
Yeah, they kept with it until like later games. I think they kind of lost sight of that in later games because eventually other animals became villains and whatnot. Knuckles just kind of like a retard at the beginning.
Well, they did that like lots of times in the 90s. There's other games that are kind of like in that kind of like pro environment. Come on, guys, fight the power. Kind of like there was this game. It was pretty much a Sonic ripoff, sort of. What the hell was it called?
There's a lot of Sonic. There's Crash Bandicoot.
Awesome Possum. That's what it was.
That sounds like an amazingly.
It was so 90s, like Awesome Possum.
Oh man, I don't remember that game. I'm imagining Pauly Shore as a possum.
All I remember is my friend rented it once, and then he couldn't find it again. And his mom. This was back in the day when like you would ask your parent for something, and you would like almost like ask so much that like they would have to go and search because they couldn't just go on the internet on Amazon and buy it or eBay. No, they had to go off and search like stores for like a year to get Awesome Possum.
Now, was Awesome Possum? I never played it. Did he like roll up in a ball and jump around, run fast?
No, he ran. He didn't roll up in a ball, but like pretty much there was like these people. It kind of was like Fern Gully. There was like these people that were actually just kind of creepy when you looked at it. These guys with chainsaws and stuff destroying the spores, and then like you come near them, they're like coming to like chop you up in half. And at the beginning of the level, it'd always be like. I'd show him and be like, "I'm awesome."
I remember you have it on your Genesis collection for the 360.
No, it's not on.
Star. No, the Star.
Ristar.
Ristar. That looks kind of like the dumpster baby between Sonic and Kirby.
That kind of was, because it was made by Sega, and that was one where you had to like. You had arms, and he had to grab shit,
and he had to fling,
and he would like shake it,
almost like he's like strangling someone to death.
And then you would let go, and he would slam into it, and they'd fly across the screen,
strangle them to death, and rape them. Then yeah.
I remember I borrowed that game and the Tiny Toon games from my cousin at the same time. I don't think I ever beat Ristar. I think I got about halfway through it and was like I got bored of it.
I don't remember liking that game at all. But
it's okay. It kind of makes me frustrated sometimes.
A lot of games in the 90s do that. But back to Sonic though, when we move on to like Sega Saturn was kind of like a dry spot for Sonic games.
Like Sonic R.
Yeah, like I said, a dry spot.
Is it? Just the only other thing they had Sonic Jam, which was kind of like a tease.
Well, that was the biggest fucking cock tease because it was like I remember somebody told me. I mean, granted, this is a kid, so you get the internet was still young, and you got only bits of information.
And you couldn't believe what you heard because I mean, who was
everything?
Well, you couldn't prove anything back then.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, dude, check this out. You get Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. Okay, a bunch of art." Okay, it's when you're a kid. That shit matters to you, apparently.
You're like, that's fucking gay. Where's the real unlockables? Where's my extra characters and new games?
Yeah, get this.
Give me a fucking Game Gear game. I don't care. Give me the master version of the game. It doesn't matter to me.
You're like, and then there's another game in it where you play as Sonic in 3D. I'm like, oh my god, that sounds amazing. And then he got it, I went over to his house. And we're like, all right, there's nothing to kill. We were looking around like, oh, it's just a little. So you get to play as Sonic and walk around through a museum. More or less
your classic game.
Yay, I guess, Oh, look, Tails flies around the room, and you have to jump in and latch onto him. One other Sega Saturn game, which actually was a good game.
Sonic 3D Blast? I never got to play the one for Sega Saturn. I had it for Sega Genesis, and that game was actually one of those ones. That was such a sweet game at the time, and I think they made that game. It kind of came out around the same time as Super Mario RPG. Mm-hmm. And you had Mario's 3D game and Sonic's 3D game back then.
Two entirely different games.
Completely different.
Very similar look. Entirely different games, though.
This leads up to another conclusion, is the Sonic RPG for the DS. That is the closest incarnation I've ever played of a Mario RPG. Mm-hmm. Closer than Paper Mario. Paper Mario's, I guess, not that close. But back to Sonic 3D Blast. I never played it for Sega Saturn. Explain that one to me.
Sega Saturn. Well, I had a friend that had a Sega Saturn, and keep in mind, I'm going off of one night of just staying up till 2 in the morning.
Cranked out a Mountain Dew.
No, not Mountain Dew, actually. Surprisingly, no.
No, I know what it was. It wasn't Mountain Dew. It was what's it? Start with an S.
Surge.
There we go.
Surge. I totally forgot. Maybe it was something. We were.
Surge was such a big drink for about 2 years in the 90s.
No, but we were just. I don't remember. We must have been cranked out on something, or I don't think it was Mountain Dew. But we were up till 2 in the morning playing it, and from what I remember, because I have Sonic 3D Blast for the Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube.
But that's the Genesis version.
That's the Genesis version. Sega Saturn version, I remember it being roughly the same thing. I mean, I know if someone listens to this, be like, that's bullshit. It wasn't the same thing. I really remember it being the same thing.
Did it have like a better cutscene? Well, the second one had a kind of cool cutscene.
The music was a little. The music, yeah, they had like a cooler opening cutscene. Cutscene was cooler at the opening. The music was a little less pixelated from what I remember.
Yeah,
keep in mind, I'm pulling solely off from one night. So just keep that in mind.
I should buy that game and just find out and solve this fucking mystery.
And then you probably get a port for it or something, or a ROM for it.
They're harder to run those. I'll just buy it off eBay. I bet you can't be that hard. It can't be that expensive a game for Sega Saturn.
Probably not. Yeah. And then there is like actual like for the credits, there was a. They just showed images of Sonic running with flickies, and they actually had a real song. Not like it was actually like a real song. It was kind of like a pop song of a chick singing like, "Yeah, my hero, you know, touch me." It's free love, baby. Ooh, and it's Sonic's time. Yeah, so
I don't know why they had. You said like Sonic and pop songs used to always be kind of together. Like
Sonic
R had like the gayest soundtrack, probably.
Well, there's one so like. No,
I almost like to play it just for the soundtrack because it makes my day.
no, it was almost kind of like, fuck, I can't remember. It was like, living in the city, living through the city. Like, this quickly turned into a very bad musical. You pass me the water for a second. But no,
Sonic always, you know, it doesn't matter, kind of. They always had strange music. Even up to like Sonic Adventure, I loved how everybody had their own little theme song.
Well, that's where it got a little better, but all give and take. Cause like they had the Tails theme song, which was just I wanna fly high, so I can reach. No, it's like I wanna fly high, so I could reach the highest of heaven. Somebody will be waiting.
I remember because we kept always joking.
Yes,
like,
I remember that song. Somehow from the 6th grade, I remember that fucking song. I don't know.
I just remember because when we were kids playing that game, we were like, I wanna get high, so on the top sky.
It's Towley's song, really.
It really just sounds like it.
It sounds like Towley, the girl singer, and then you know there's. Keep in mind, I love Knuckles. I absolutely love.
But Knuckles is pretty much they always made him the black character.
No, he was. If you think about it, because he was almost. You don't piece this together when you're a kid. When you look at it and just piece. They made his shoes look like the Jamaican flag. They gave him the dreadlocks. Then he's like, you know. Then at the same time, like whenever he comes in, like you couldn't really piece it as hip hop, but you pieced it as whatever. When he came in Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles.
Well, no, because really even in Sonic 3 when he shows up.
It didn't really register as hip hop though back then. It was just like whatever, okay, just drums, okay, whatever. But then like when you get to Sonic Adventure, it is really some of like the worst like rap and hip hop. I know it's for a kid's game, but it was really just like, oh my god, you know, it was just like. And then like when you get to Sonic Adventure 2, every level you play as Knuckles. Just have we're going in the pumpkin patch, yeah, the pumpkin patch, yeah, you know. So, when we get to the ghost level, you're like, oh, we have this gangster. It's so fucking hardcore. We got a pumpkin patch song.
Did you ever go play Knuckles Chaotix for the 32X?
I played it at your house once.
Oh yeah, I had that one because when I got my 32X, I was like, I gotta get it. There's a Sonic game for it. It's a Knuckles game. Starring Knuckles, it's gonna be so badass. Not too bad, except for the fact that they're always connected to this gay chain thing.
Well, I knew about the chain thing. The thing would be a problem is I couldn't get into it because I was playing the game. I'd be running real fast and I have to stop every couple of minutes.
Okay, pull backwards of the chain, let go, spin around, go. Okay, we made it across again.
Yeah, and that would always have to happen. You'd always have to stop for a second. And whatever character, because every character had his own special attributes and abilities. Mm-hmm. Which I don't mind. 2 characters, okay, so. Apparently they can't keep up with Knuckles like Tails can keep up with Sonic, so he has to keep a fucking chain on him.
Put a leash on these guys. They're just dragging
Knuckles like,
yo, God, I'm getting fucking dragged! Oh, jeez! Knuckles, slow down!
You're my bitch! You're my bitch, Tommy!
Come back, I'm gonna fuck you at my house when I get home. Give me that fucking emerald! You ain't leaving.
We gotta bring down Robotnik's theme park, bitch!
I'm gonna use you as like a ball and chain whip! I ain't getting near him!
I never thought of this. They're fucking all the chaotics. Mighty, Charmy, SBO, Victor. They're all Knuckles sex slaves. I never thought of it in that way.
They're fucking on a leash like the Gimps. Put the little ball in their mouth.
Maybe that's why we don't see him. Maybe that's what happened to Charmy, because we don't see Charmy in any more Sonic games. Maybe he's
That's
just like
Charmy fucked up one day.
Charmy is at the bottom. He's in the basement of Angel Island with a fucking gimp ball in his mouth in a black leather suit.
Knuckles fucking pulls him out for special parties for his special friends. Come on, boy. You want to see something really cool? Come downstairs to the basement. I got something hidden down here. And he just starts digging down, and I was like, what the fuck, Knuckles? I can't dig down there. You pull him up. Oh, hold on a second. Not here. Not here.
The little
not here. Not here.
The little like radar thing. Is
not here.
off.
Oh, it's been 35 fucking minutes. I can't find him.
Because that was the thing about Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2. We'll go back to Sonic Adventure 1 in a second. But the thing with Sonic Adventure 2 is we'll touch on its ups and downs. Upside of Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic and Knuckles, their levels play awesome. I have no real complaints about Sonic and Knuckles. Sonic and Shadow's levels play awesome. I have no real.
Oh yeah,
complaints.
they're fucking awesome.
They were people down Shadow. I don't really mind Shadow. He's a fine character, whatever. He's he could be a little emo. I know that, but I think he's a cool character for the most part. I rather play as Sonic more often, but as long as the character at least plays like Sonic, that's almost enough for me. And that's what Shadow did. He played like Sonic, and it was the first time you're like, oh, we're playing as a bad guy in a Sonic game. This is different. That's cool. Then the other good side of it is, I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I know the writing may have been kind of cheesy in parts, but overall, I think it was a good story. Because that was the first time in a Sonic game they actually had like a dark revenge story going on. It tried, maybe at moments took itself a little too seriously, but overall, it was the first time I actually saw a good story in a Sonic game.
No, the story was really fucking badass. It's just the only problem I ever had with the game is I hated playing as Knuckles
and Rouge
because they're
the Bat Slut.
And they were totally like the Knuckles levels in Sonic Adventure 1 were totally fine because there was only like what 3 of them. I think it was only 3 of them.
There's only like 4 of them, and then like it wasn't too hard.
And then they weren't
too
hard. It was kind of fun. It was different,
You're able to still run fast. You run fast as Knuckles in this, but it's
this one you would be sitting there. I'd be watching the fucking clock, and it's 45 minutes that I've been digging around
and
looking for a goddamn emerald.
Earlier levels as Knuckles in Rouge, you're in these smaller kind of areas. Like, all right, whatever. I'll find the fucking emerald with this bad hip hop and this bad like because Knuckles had the yeah, pumpkin patch. Yeah, Egyptian desert. Yeah, that's all I can really remember.
Go for those emeralds, bitch.
Yeah, and then Rouge was just like...
She had bouncing breast. Dead or Alive was popular at that time.
Yeah.
Everybody had to have bouncing breast. There was bouncing breast in the kids' game, pretty much.
Yeah, which I'm surprised I didn't tag it for that. I remember just playing that game. I was like I think it was 7th or 8th grade when that game came out. And
I remember when that game came out. I was so excited.
I was so excited, definitely. And the game... I'm just repeating everything you're fucking saying. I was more excited
than you were. Fuck, I had it pre-ordered. No, not really, actually. I just kind of went to the store and picked it up back then.
I really wish I got a pair of those Sonic shoes when they came out.
Yeah, well, which ones did you want? How the soap made those special, shoes?
Sonic, of course.
Yeah, there was a Sonic and, if I had, all the money in the world, I would get both the Sonic and Shadow ones. But they made these shoes when that game came out. It was like a promotional thing with this company called Soap that made shoes that you could literally grind rails in real life like Sonic and Knuckles. Which had to be the biggest fucking lawsuit ever. Boy, you think a skateboard or a Razor scooter is dangerous? Guess what we got next for kids?
It was kind of for the kids, like, hey, you can't skateboard? Well, guess what? Just try riding down rails. It's like, it really sounds a fucking recipe for disaster. They kind of came and went. That was one of those early 2000s things that really came and left very fucking quickly. But back to Rouge real quick.
I think they're like $130 for those shoes or so. It was at the time when you're a kid.
They wouldn't fit me now. I know
that doesn't sound that expensive nowadays, but when I was a kid, it was like $130.
That's a lot of allowances.
Yeah, I know that. That would take me 7 weeks to save up for that.
Yeah.
Plus doing extra chores.
When we're kids, we talk in very unsure voices like this.
We just don't know. I mean, the world is so changing every day. I don't know, but no, back to Rouge.
It's not the 90s anymore.
It wasn't the 90s. It was 2001.
Yeah, I know, but Rouge, though. We got so much fucking 90s shit in this.
Sonic is the definition of the 90s. You don't get more.
You don't get a job. Just go around, do what you want.
You don't wear
You
pants.
fight the man.
Yeah, exactly. It is 90s as it gets. You have a fucking rad haircut.
That you think is awesome. Society probably doesn't
You have
deem
friends
it so.
that you live off of.
Yeah,
And you save the day and everybody loves you.
At least you saved the day in your own head. But, you know, that's right. I just recycled that Mountain Dew can. Where's my fucking statue?
My 10 cents.
There's that 90s kid mentality we all had back then. But no, what was I going to say? No, Rouge, though, was one of those characters that was just, she was just kind of like, what can you really say about Rouge?
Tits.
It just feels kind of awkward. Just talk. Yeah, you tell your friends like, oh, you could play as, you know.
Yeah, I was watching this bat and she had giant tits. Oh, was it Batgirl? No. It was literally a bat. Like
And she
fucking
was
man bat.
Man bat with tits would probably be harder.
It was like, yeah, bitch bat.
Bitch bat. No, she was just one of those characters that was just, I don't know. When you played that game, you just wanted to get. I would have been cool with playing as Knuckles and Tails if they played like Sonic.
If everybody just played like Sonic, but had maybe something slightly different about him.
Yeah, like
cool.
the older days, you know, because that's like when you played as Tails and Knuckles back
When
in
you played as
Sonic.
Tails, Tails could fly, Knuckles could climb and glide.
Yeah.
And that was cool. That made a difference. And then Sonic seemed more equal. He could use all the power-ups, actually.
Yeah, he got special abilities with the power-ups, and that was really awesome. But no, I don't really care about Tails driving like a robot or who the fuck wants to play as Robotnik? Come on. So
yeah, I want to play as a big fat guy and run around levels. Oh wait, I don't run around. Guess what? He's in a fucking robot. How lazy is that? No wonder this guy's so fucking fat.
But then like but let's jump back to Sonic Adventure 1. We skipped Sonic Adventure 1. That was actually probably not as good, but probably the closest thing we got to Sonic 64.
That really was. I mean, it wasn't Mario 64, but it was such a cool game. Like when I first got my Dreamcast, and I got it about 6 months after it came out, I bought 2 games. Actually, about 3 games. Take it back. I bought Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Goodbye.
Amazing game. That was actually one of the main reasons I bought it. Sonic Adventure, and Crazy Taxi.
3 amazing games there.
They were probably like the 3 first games I got. Probably my 3 almost favorite games before. Actually, I don't know. Dreamcast has so many good games. Mm-hmm. It's such an underrated
Well, those are
system.
3 of my favorite games for the Dreamcast right there.
Mm-hmm.
But like Sonic Adventure 1, that was actually pretty well balanced out. My only real complaint about Sonic Adventure 1 was just Big the Cat. Because, all right.
I think you only had like 2 levels, so like you didn't think too much of it at first. I think really heavily about it now.
It took me time to actually beat the games. I really did not want to play as Big the Cat. Because it's just, okay, I'll play as this goofy looking cat guy, whatever. And then as I went through, this is just annoying. Why do I want to fish in a Sonic game?
I don't know. I guess the fishing thing at first sounded kind of cool because Zelda made fishing really cool.
That's probably what they did. I never thought of it that way, but that's probably what they did. They probably said, well, I guess Zelda, you got more time for it. It's an explorer game. You don't have to fish. You can fish if you want to.
Well, when I was a kid, like we would go there. It sounds ridiculous nowadays. You could spend the entire day fucking just fishing there over and over again. Uh-huh. There's so many of those small. That's like in Final Fantasy VII at Gold Saucer, in the game, which is like a giant theme park.
I remember that part of the game.
As a kid, I could spend the entire day there playing all the little mini games.
As a kid,
nowadays
I could just spend the whole day at this virtual theme park.
Look at the time I had. Look at the time. I had all this free time that I could actually get. People work in the world. I'm at a virtual theme park having a blast.
I guess one of the closest things we'll get to Total Recall.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
If it was like Gold Saucer, maybe it'd be awesome.
I meant Recall, not Total Recall, but Recall itself, I mean.
Oh, yeah, Recall itself. I would go to Recall.
Yeah.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be Sonic for a day or something.
Yeah. You just go into Recall. So, you want to be a secret agent? How about a sports star? How about a Playboy, you know?
How about a blue hedgehog?
No. Fuck that. I want to be a blue hedgehog. Wait, what? Yeah, no, I want to be a blue hedgehog.
I can brag about it to my friends. You guys, you won't believe this shit.
I'm going to be wearing no pants, just shoes. And the guy's looking at you like, what the fuck is this? I want to run around in loop-de-loops.
Why do you want to do this?
I want to grind rails on my shoes.
Why do you want to do this? To fuck with the man, you know? That's the ultimate vibe the game always had. You got to fight the power and all that. But no,
that was my recall experience. Never ever you just have this memory stuck in your head.
just you being pantsless. It's all like fucking deranged and weird because they didn't know you were thinking. They didn't know what you were thinking. So it's just like it looks like just some fucking abstract like
guy with a blue mohawk running around with no pants on.
Like a fucking bad acid trip or something like that.
Chasing down like the president.
Shading like fighting metal bugs.
Later on, you have to go to your psychiatrist and explain this story to her that's in your fucking memory bank, and you kind of forgot you went to recall, so now it just seems so real and vivid. You try to explain that was not my college days.
I was always trying to be like an activist, but this is I don't remember what the fuck was this,
So are you sure you didn't just get really hammered and run down the street towards the White House and start jumping on guards? No, man. When I fucking jumped on these guys, like, a little animal would pop out and hop away.
I walk up to a chili dog stand and get a fucking chili dog.
And eat all of them.
Not pay.
Not pay because I'm like, I fucking saved the day, man. What, you gonna make it pay? Like, what? I stopped that Republican.
No, but then we... Oh, man. Then...
Sonic Adventure. You know what game I really liked actually on the Dreamcast? Sonic Shuffle.
I didn't like that one.
You really didn't?
I didn't like Mario Party, and that's all Sonic Shuffle was.
See, Sonic Shuffle to me was really cool because, like, the board actually wasn't as cool, but the mini games in it were really awesome. And, like, I don't know, after playing Mario Party, playing those, then you got Sonic Shuffle, that changed it up a bit. And I thought it was just really cool because it was Sonic styled, and it was Mario Party. It was made by, I think, Hudson Soft. No, that was Mario Party made by Hudson Soft. Maybe that was made by Hudson Soft too. I can't remember, actually, off the top of my head. But that was a good one. I like that one a lot.
I remember that one kind of like, that one you're like stuck in some fantasy world or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. It was like, Mario Party kind of just made it really simple. It's just like, these are board games. This is what you're doing, you know? Sonic tried to make it feel like you're like, no, we have to explain this in a more reality-based way because...
And there's cards.
Yeah, there was cards too in it. And then at the very end, they'd have like ending games, which were really cool. Like, you'd be like surfing a giant wave.
I never got that far in the game.
So one of my favorite ones.
I was never good at Mario Party.
Because they had a lot of these like 1 versus 3 people games in there, but like whoever was like the one player just fucking raped the other guys. There was one where everybody was in a frying pan, and the guy was like ginormous, and he was flipping everybody.
Was it Robotnik? I see it being Robotnik.
No, you were just like Sonic or whoever Tails or whoever you're playing as in a giant machine, and you were like flipping all your friends and burning them to death.
It's pretty violent for being a Sonic game, but okay.
That game actually was one of the first games to have cell shade graphics too, or at least what I remember.
Then you
didn't see that very often before.
No, not in the Sonic game. No.
Not in anything.
Yeah. Well, I think Dreamcast that was like one of the first ones to do it, because one of the first games to have a lot of cell shade stuff. Because it came out with
Jet Grind Radio,
which was my favorite games for the Dreamcast. Which it's weird because they came out with it Jet Set Radio Future for the Xbox, and I was really excited, but for whatever reason, I guess it was one of those things. It had its time and it had its place, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't get into Jet Set Radio Future. It wasn't a bad game. I just couldn't. It just didn't have that.
That's the same thing happened with Shenmue, because I spent so long trying to get like, I was waiting so hard for Shenmue 2 to come out. I was like, can't wait, it's gonna be the most exciting game ever. And then they didn't bring it out. I remember I was in GameStop and they had the one from Europe. And it was $65 used, which was just too much money I had at the time when I was a kid. And I wish I would have bought. This day, I wish I would have just bought that version, because I think
you would have appreciated.
I would have appreciated it at that time. When I got it on Xbox, like 7 years later, or 6 years later, whatever it was, maybe it wasn't that long, but it was still a handful of years later. It was just a little too late, and the game just felt a little bit too old. And it was just I always feel like one thing said. There were so many games that Dreamcast kind of cut off at the last second. I mean, to at least the U.S. And it was that one. They didn't bring a couple of fighting games. They didn't bring Guilty Gear 2.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
But yeah, I like that. I mean, they've released everything known to mankind nowadays. Yeah, you can buy it for anything. They didn't bring Fighting Vipers 2, which would have been really cool, which was a sweet game on Sega Saturn. There was actually a bunch of other ones. The Darkstalkers trilogy, it came out for PSP later, but that came out on there. And in Japan, I think they made like 5,000 copies of it, though.
Was that the only Darkstalkers game they had for the Dreamcast, the one they would have had?
Well, all it was 1, 2, and 3 from PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
It's the same thing as the PSP version.
Okay. So all I have is the PSP version.
Yeah, that pretty much is the Dreamcast one.
All right.
And then there's some other ones, too, but...
But they're going to come out with another edition of Street Fighter, Third Strike or something. Another edition of that.
No, they had they're in
Not Third Strike, but Street Fighter 3.
in Japan they released a different Dead or Alive. It was called Dead or Alive Limited Edition, which was kind of the same version as the one that came out for PS2.
Mm-hmm.
It just had a little bit more, I think, moves or whatever like didn't make it into the first Dreamcast incarnation. That had, I think, it had more costumes and small things like that. Small things, but it's only that you would have paid for back then.
It's been about 10 minutes. We still haven't really talked about Sonic Adventure 1. We keep on like bringing something up and going.
Sonic Shuffle.
Well,
Sticker and radio.
Let's just try to crank this one out so we can just jump on other things so we can backtrack
Fuck
on
Big the Cat.
Fuck Big the Cat. That's the short and simple of it. Everyone else was, well, you don't really want too much of that in other characters in a Sonic game because the thing is, Sonic, all his levels are great. It was simple. It was fast paced. It's what you wanted. Everything in a Sonic game when you played as Sonic. Tails, you got close to it. It was a race. That was awesome. That was fine. Knuckles, his levels were different, but they were short and they were sweet, and that was fun. Amy, you don't want too much of a game of that because her whole thing was she was running away from a robot that was trying
to rape her.
I thought we went into too many rape jokes, but we'll just go with that. Why not? I was like, I'm gonna say capture, but
we all know what Dr. Robotnik's gonna do when he gets her.
He's into bestiality, yeah. No, but in that one was actually her levels were still fun because the whole time you're just running from a robot. That was the whole thing of it. And then she wasn't fast paced. You used the hammer. That was kind of different. The robot E101 Gamma, is it E101 or E102? I don't remember, but Gamma. His name was Gamma.
Those levels in Sonic Adventure were really fun because there was only like 3 of them, and they were kind of like short and simple, but they were short and perfect enough to actually be fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed those.
Mm-hmm. That part was pretty cool. It's just Big the Cat sucked. And then then we come to Sonic Adventure 2, which we tapped on, which we should have gone in order, but whatever. Then we get to Sonic Heroes, which Sonic Heroes is a game where they said, all right, let's try to fix these problems and just make a game where there's always a lot to do. Didn't pan out so well because the thing about Sonic Heroes is, okay, it's a really cool concept. You play as 3 characters at the same time. You switch given their needs and their abilities. And the levels themselves are pretty long. The thing is, once you play as Sonic, Tails, and
Knuckles.
I almost said Robotnik. What the fuck? Once you get done with playing Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, it's kind of like you don't really have any real reason or motive to go back because it was cool seeing the Chaotix in there, everybody but Mighty, because Mighty's in like Knuckles' Gimp Shack or somewhere. I'm just assuming.
It's unexplained, so that's what we have to assume.
No, but
I like that one for the most part, but yeah,
no, but
that was kind of, I guess, the downfall because it was kind of like it was short, and then you go like, oh well, I got 3 other
characters. It wasn't that short. I mean, it was. I guess if you're just playing as one team,
yeah, if you play as one team, it's short, but
because the levels themselves are pretty long.
Mm-hmm.
It's just okay. Now you got to play Shadow. Oh, it's in his team. It's like, oh, it's all the same levels generally.
A little bit difficult.
A little bit harder, but the same levels. Then you played as the Chaotix, which their whole thing was same levels, just you had special goals. You couldn't be seen by the bad guy, or you had to go find like 10 chows in the world, or something stupid like that.
And then wasn't the Amy one like the bitch mode or something like that?
Amy was just the pussy mode, you know. And then here's the thing about that game. I never finished that game. I don't feel bad about that because they said they want to bring back the classic Sonic experience. So classic Sonic experience number 1, place. And beyond that though, it was just the whole thing with that was you at the end of every game, at the end of all the Dreamcast Sonic games, you would just turn into Super Sonic because it was part of the story. This one was you had to go to get the next part of the story. I thought as soon as I beat the game with all the characters, I would just move on to the next. I just eventually get to the main story ending. No, not the case. You had to go and get all the emeralds in this game to get that. And that I know we were able to do that back in the day, but
that just sounds like time and effort I don't have nowadays.
Yeah, and plus it was with characters you don't give a shit about. And the way you would actually go through the warp gate was there would be keys within the level. You have to collect a key, and if you got hit, you lost that key. So if you got to the end of the level with no key, you weren't going to that stage.
That's stupid.
Yeah. So it was.
I think I just borrowed that game from you, and I just played the Sonic and Knuckles and Tails part, and I called it a day there. I was like, yeah, I saw what I need to see.
Exactly. I mean, maybe now I'm thinking. I'm not sure if you lost the key when you got hit. That's a possibility, but I think you did. It's been a good like 6 years since I probably played that game. But maybe 6 years, something like that. But then we go to Shadow the Hedgehog,
Yeah.
which that's like a game. It's kind of like, yeah, all right, you have a friend. He starts hanging out with a crowd he really shouldn't be hanging out with. You know, it's like you want to help him, but you don't really know what you can do. You try to hold his hand, you try to guide him, but it just doesn't pan out.
He keeps falling off the ship each time.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you say we're gonna go hang out with some friends.
So you give him a gun. maybe that will solve his problems.
Give him a gun, then let him drive a Jeep like in Halo, or let him hijack cars like Grand Theft Auto or Halo. Because that's the thing with that game is
it tried to be other games.
It tried to be other games. Well, the thing is, because you went from Sonic Adventure 2. I don't think this is a big thing, but you went from Sonic Adventure. I guess Sega may have thought it was a big thing. You went from Sonic Adventure 2, which wasn't like ultra dark, but it was actually
it was a more
serious
story. Yeah,
it was a more serious story. And then you jump to Sonic Heroes, which is like, hey gang, let's go save the world again, bro. You know, and then you get to Shadow the Hedgehog, and that's where it just
my
like
life's dark.
my life.
Shit happens.
Yeah, exactly. It was really playing off just the very dark anti-hero kind of like life is bullshit, you know. So. And
Soaps fucked me over.
That
goddamn endorsement.
He lost the lawsuit to a child who fell victim to the soap's shoes.
He almost had a Mortal Kombat fatality. He slid down a rail, made it all the way, but then fell off into a big pile of spikes. Why was there spikes there? No one knows.
But I'm the one that has to pay. Get me a gun. Well, the thing with that one was it was just kind of like, you know, they made, Shadows actually was developed from an alien from space, and here's the big problem with the game. It was kind of an interesting idea, but just not well executed, way too rushed. They did this thing where it's like, okay, you could you play neutral, you go straight through the game, and then, or you can go, you bump into a good guy in the game. Like you'd be running through the game early on in the level, you'd bump into like Sonic or Knuckles or Charmy or Cream the Rabbit, just any whatever Sonic character. And you get the option to help that character, which is obviously the good guy option, or you're given the option to help the bad guys. And the problem with that is even if you're helping the bad guys, I mean, I guess the problem right there is they should have had a before you go to the stage, choose who you want to help. Because what would happen is, even if you're helping the bad guys would still attack you, which was just annoying. I mean, I understand you can't just switch, because then constantly switching, because that way everybody would be just after you. Nobody would be after you at all. You just go through the level. I understand that. So they should have done something where you, at the beginning, you can select.
Yeah.
But that right there was just one of those things, like, really? And then, plus, the differences at the end weren't that much of the difference. They had just, like, locations are a little different. They may have said the words a little different. But ultimately, it was the same, like, 3 endings, give or take.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up right here for the moment. This is going to be part 1 of our Sonic feature. Part 2 will come up in just a bit, so stay tuned.
See you soon.